Hello, everybody. Welcome back to not another Isekai. And man, we are. This is the real start. We had last week where we touched Hell's Paradise. This is the real start. Real start to the new season, spring 2023. Wrapping up one of our shows, and then that's pretty much it. The only thing that's carrying over is gonna be Vinland Saga, because that's a two core. That's getting that's already started. Its second core, not only in episode count, but also the the way the story's going. So that's pretty cool. We'll talk about that. Um, and then I got a bunch. I mean, we're covering. Let's see. We got 10 today. Still a few that haven't started yet, especially the big one, Demon Slayer, that hasn't come out yet. Um, but yeah, we got a bunch of new shows. So this is the first real week of like, here's what spring 2023 is looking like. Um, so yeah, let's start. Let's do it. So like I said, first we got Villain Saga season 2, episode 13. Um, Again, not only an episode count, but also I think what the story is going to be. They're really starting their second half. Um, so this the big like I guess moment that happened in this one was the very end where we see the slave. We know it was Gardar, and he was riding away. And then we see him stop, and Arnheid is there, and they're, I guess, husband and wife, or they were at the very, before they got, made slaves. Um, so that's a big thing, right? That's a big ending. I mean, first off, just like a little bit big, just because, like, we know that Einar likes her. Um, you know, even though he was like, no, it's not like that. We know it's like that. We know every time he looks at her, every time he speaks to her, we know that. So that's, that's going to cause some friction, I'm sure. I mean, especially with Gardar. Well, I was going to say because with him being a slave, but I guess they're all slaves too. Even though Einar and Thorfinn are about to be free. Well, we'll see about that because of the whole, again, where the second half of the show is going. Um, Kettle and all of them are kind of on the run. I imagine, like I said, I mentioned it last episode, but I imagine they are going to come back to the farm. It's their farm, but it's like everything's going to change. And then Canute and them, they're about to invade the farm, take it over. So it would be interested to see what happens with Einar and Thorfinn. Again, last week is really where we touched on that because that's where all the questions were. How's this going to affect Einar and Thorfinn? And it will. It definitely will. But back to this episode, um, not really sure what this means because we know that Gardar. So, in my mind, right, he's out, killing a bunch of people. One hand, it's like yes, what was it? Killer Mike, run the jewels, kill your masters. Right, that's what Gardar has done very literally. So good for him, right? Right, math, the whole like slavery thing, not good to say the least. But he's not just gonna get away with it. Like I don't imagine that's what's gonna happen. And then also not only with the Arnheid and Einar connection, but also like Kettle keeps her as well as like his whatever you want to call it. I don't really think as a label, outside of just slave. Um, so it's like that's gonna be interesting. And all this is happening when Kettle's not there. His sons aren't there. Like the family of the farm who owns this isn't there. So they're going to be coming back to some nonsense, I'm sure. A lot of difficulties on multiple fronts here for them. Everything has gone up in smoke in just about a few days. Um, and then yeah. So it's going to be crazy because now, I mean, again, the whole cliffhanger moment. I mean, we're going to see that, right? Like, not only do we have that reveal, but also Gardar is still like currently in the middle of being chased by two other people that are trying to kill them or kill him. I mean, at the very least, capture him. But he got one of their own, so I'm sure they're more on kill mode than capture mode. And then Snake is there too, so Snake I'm sure is gonna hop on a horse and go after him. We don't really know his skill set though because he kind of jumped those guys. I mean, those guys were idiots. Like being so loud, and it's like he's sleeping. What are you doing? Like the whole idea that he's sleeping, he can't hear us. Like no. If you're sleeping, you're supposed to be quiet. You can't just. You can be like, oh, he's sleeping. There's no way he could ever hear us. Like, well, if you talk loud enough, he's gonna wake up. That's just how ears work. Um, so yeah, I was really dumb. And the whole thing too, where he was like, the one guy was like, but there's three of us, and the prize is three horses. It's like you're an idiot. You're like, what? Do you think that's how that's gonna work? Because I don't think so. But yeah, so just stupid. But yeah, again, my whole point in saying that is that like we don't know Gardar's real skill set. He's really good. Don't get me wrong. He's really skilled fighter. But like, how's he gonna fight against maybe someone like Snake, who, we've seen little bits and pieces of. We know that he is more skilled, or even like is Einar or Thorfinn gonna jump into this? I don't know. I mean, especially with their somewhat like allegiance and even like respect for Kettle, I would say. But then also for Arnheid, like it's all very interesting. It's all gonna be mucked up in episode 14. So yeah. And then just to mention this a little bit too, the other part of the story, which is most of the episode, I would say, was the whole spherical stuff, him collapsing, him going kind of senile. Very sad to see, because he is probably one of the more fan favorite characters, especially for me this season, just because he was like the one guy, other than Kettle, I would say, he's really like the one guy that like had their backs. I mean, he still made them work, but he was like, hey, you want a horse? Work for it, and I'll lend you a horse. And it's like, okay. He was, they're still slaves, but like he was helping them when other people wouldn't, when other people were, treated them like dirt. At least Spherical was like, hey, come work for me, and come do some of my stuff, and I'll give you a horse, I'll let you stop over and eat some food, that sort of thing. So that was nice, so it's sad to see him gone, right? I mean, he's not dead, but probably soon, I would wager. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Oh, the one other thing I would like to mention, which I thought was cool, was Thorfinn always wanting to listen in on Snake reading Spherical the Bible. Saying he's not. Again, I don't remember from season 1 if there's any religion there. I mean, especially like Christianity. I'm not sure if Thorfinn followed that or his dad followed that. I don't think so. But it was a nice moment because you can see that he's listening in, and like he is listening to those ideals of like non-violence and helping everyone out, not just your own, but everyone, like being nice and trying to build each other up, right? So him kind of having those ideals, especially piggybacking off of the earlier episodes in the season, where he even talks about like not wanting to commit violence anymore, not wanting to hurt anyone anymore. So now those two things melded together, it's kind of this new Thorfinn, and it's going to be super interesting when Canute and them arrive, and it's like, you're ours, and if you fight back, we have we're bringing soldiers. We're what do you say? Like over 100 people are gonna come on the farm. That's more than enough. We've already heard from Snake that I forget what he said. Like a good 40 trained men could easily take over this farm. I think he said something like that, some number like that. And so like him bringing over 100 of Canute's men plus Floki, it's like it's over, right? So it's gonna be interesting to see those two things clash. But yeah. So a great episode, like I said, definitely a big, I would say last episode and this episode are big turning points for the season. And so, yeah, can't wait to see it. Next, we got Tokyo Revengers Season 2, Episode 13. This is the final one of the season, and, like, we're just going to jump to the end. Like, when I was watching this, because, you're kind of thinking, like, who are these red guys, right? What's their name? Tenjiku gang, right? It's like, who are these guys, right? Where they come from? And then the end reveal of, it's Kiski. It's like smacking yourself on the forehead, like, yeah, of course it's Kiski. Of course that's who it is, right? And then you start to connect the dots of, like, how did we get to the future, or I guess the present, where Mikey kills everyone, wants to kill himself. It's like, oh, of course it was Kiski. Of course Kiski left that. Because it's like, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but of course that's what it was. Kiski left, and he wasn't just tail between his legs. He was like, all right, I'm going to build my own gang and be better, and I'm going to get revenge. at the very least, I'm gonna show Mikey that he should respect me. And so he has this new gang, and they're like, we're like specifically going after Toman. It's like, yeah, yeah, it's Kiski. He wants revenge. He wants to brute force his way into, you know, onto the pedestal, right? So that's what he's doing. I don't really know where this is gonna go. You know, them having that big cliffhanger is huge. I imagine we're gonna get a season 3. I don't think it's been announced, but I mean, again, I'm pretty sure the Tokyo Revengers manga, is that still going, or did that like end recently or something? But yeah, I imagine it's doing well enough. I imagine Tokyo Revengers is doing well enough. Like the show is doing well enough for them to want a season 3. I would love one because again, like I fell off of the Tokyo Revengers. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the season, but I fell off kind of the end of season 1. Like I watched like 70% of the show, and I was like, okay, this is good. I'm kind of falling off on the end though. And then season 2 got announced. I was like, okay, well, I gotta rewatch the end of season 1 because I don't really remember it. It was good, and then season 2, this season's been really good. I've very much enjoyed it, even though there's been some stuff that I feel has been dragged out just a little bit, but not to its like major detriment. And so I'm back in. Like I'm all here for a season 3. You know, the way this season has gone on, it's great. And I'm super like seeing this next battle, wanting to see if Kiski explains what happened. Again, we can all connect the dots as to what he did. I don't know how long the whole time jump has been though for them, because like how long but since the time Kiski got banished to now, because like the shorter the time span has been, the more impressive it is for him to have this gang of, what was it, like over 100 people, or was it like 300 or something? Like it was a crazy number, and they're all here, which I think pretty like I think that dwarfs Toman, doesn't it? Although, where's the power scaling though? Because Draken Draken took out 100 Black Dragon members by himself. So it's like, I don't know. Him and Mikey together might be able to take out at least half of this Tenjiku gang all by themselves. I don't know. But yeah, and then what else do we have? We have some emotional moments in the beginning, which I thought were nice. You know, Takemichi coming back, telling Chifuyu that he has no idea how to save everyone. You know, he thought he did everything right. And you know, he still ended up everyone dying, Mikey dying in his arms. Like, it's tough, man. You really feel for Takemichi, but he is one of those characters that you feel like he's gonna do it. Like, it's really impressive how not old this cycle has gotten, where it's like this is just what this show has been, where it's Takemichi trying to get over a hurdle, he gets over, he goes back to the present, and he still loses. And it's like, all right, time to go back. He's done that about like 5 times now. And it hasn't gotten old yet, it hasn't gotten stale yet, which is very impressive to me. So I'm interested to see what he does now, where it's like, I mean, I guess we know now. I guess now we know that he has to take out Kiski and the Tenjiku gang, right? I don't know exactly what that'll entail. I mean, they're pretty powerful. I mean, they are kind of like, I feel like kind of cowards. I'm like picking people off, where it's like, there's what was it? There was 4 people, right? And to be fair, really dumb. There's like you thought 4 of you were gonna take out all these guys? You're an idiot. But on the flip side, it's like they're acting all tough and like they're winning, and it's like, dude, there's like 100 of you, and you're taking out four people. Like, why don't you fight fair? You know, so that happens a lot though with this show, where like the gang likes to act tough, but it's like there's 50 of you and you're beating Takemichi. It's like he's all by himself. Like, yeah, of course you're gonna win. And then Draken shows up and takes out 100 of you, and then you fall to your knees, right? It's like, okay, I see what time it is. Yeah, that's pretty much it though. Yeah, that's pretty much the episode. Again, very good episode. Very much enjoyed it. Um, can't wait until season 3. Seeing how they're gonna pick up with the whole Kiski stuff. Um, seeing what's gonna happen when they go back. I imagine they're gonna go back again. I don't know. I mean, because I would like for Kiski to be like, send a message, and he sends Takemichi to go back to Mikey and Draken and all them and be like, Kiski's coming. um, but yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, I don't know. I wonder. I wonder if it's just gonna be brute force. Just like, all right, let's get it. Let's get everyone in Tomon, and we're just gonna have this all out brawl. Because we've seen that before in last season, where it was just like the two gangs just fighting each other. So I wonder if we'll see it this season. Probably not, because I imagine they're not gonna show the same type of thing twice. I think that would be kind of boring. But yeah, we'll see. Next, we got the front runner for this season so far, in my opinion. Hell's Paradise. Hell's Paradise episode 2. What a show. What a program. So with this is kind of the end of the beginning of this show. I feel like, where they now know who is going to Paradise, right? I really like this though, because we got to see more characters. We got to see the 10 that are going to Paradise. I didn't write down all their names because I was like, I'm sure we'll get to know these characters more over the coming episodes. But they're all really cool. I like shows like this to have a bunch of different characters that we can kind of latch on to, see their different personalities, how they interact with each other. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of that. And yeah, we saw the first little bloodbath things. That was cool, with them all together in the 4 white walls, and be like, cull yourselves. It's like, what? That was cool. I did like the whole Sagiri stuff, where she's kind of unsure of herself, if she can really do this, if she can, if she has the heart, the strength, the will to really kill people like this, even though that's her job. She is one of the Yamada clans. So, that was cool to see her kind of internal struggle and a little bit of her past, to see where that came from. But then she just destroyed those 3 guys in about two blinks. she killed those 3 guys. So that was cool to be like, no, she can do this. She may not be all the way there, especially compared to the other Yamada people, but I'm expecting her growth to be an important part to this story as well. So I'm excited to see that. And then we see Gabimaru come in, and him have this sort of this energy of like, hey, I don't want to kill people, but I can't die. So if it's me die or you die, my path is pretty clear. Path's pretty clear, and he just goes off. He kills like 10 people in 11 seconds. So he's filthy. And then we see everyone, even the like I don't know what the president or whatever. I don't remember his title, but him like drop his fan and be like, oh my god, this guy's the one. Which is really funny, because towards the beginning of the episode, we have the one like purple-haired girl who did survive until the end. So that makes sense. Where she was like, hey, you're the Hollow or whatever. You're the Hollow Shinobi. You're like, you're kind of not living up to your tale, right? And then for it to cut to the end of the episode and him just destroy people with no remorse and like robotic precision, right? And be like, okay, all right, he's here, he's real, guys, he's the real deal. So that was cool. And we love a main character that just has the skill set, right? Like it's cool to see, especially in like shonen. It's definitely cool to see main characters who aren't all the way there, and we see their growth and become whatever, right? The classic like Naruto, right? Whereas like he's not really that nice in the beginning, but we see him grow, we see him learn, and we kind of grow with him, and yeah, it's a nice little tale, right? It's it's a nice little journey. But with Gabimaru, it's like, nah, I'm already here, I'm real, no one is gonna touch me, right? So that's cool. And so, like I said, so it ends with 10 people coming. Each one of them is going to have one of the Yamada as monitors, and they're basically like chaperones. So that's going to be cool. So, it's going to be cool to see their dynamics with the 10 killers and then the 10 Yamadas. Yeah. asking great questions though too. They were like, hey, what if the elixir's not even there? And it's like, hey, you shut your mouth. don't don't bring that energy here. Okay, it's there. We have to do it. So yeah, again, great. I love the action here. You know, Mappa doing God's work as always. And yeah, I think next episode is really where it starts to pop off. I think episode 1 and 2 was a lot of setup, but I think next episode is where we're going to be in paradise, and we're going to start obviously seeing the main setting of everything, but then some of the mystery, some of the fantastical elements there. So that's going to be really cool. And then we got probably my favorite, Hell's Paradise. I think is going to end up being probably the best show this season. Whenever I say anime of the season, I like to exclude sequels, just because to me sequels are cheating. Where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, Demon Slayer is probably going to be the best anime of the season, probably the most watched anime of the season, because it's Demon Slayer. It's season 3 of Demon Slayer, one of the most popular anime currently still airing, right? Like, duh, like that's no other show has a chance. I would say there's very few shows that could air, like Attack on Titan, right? Like any any season where Attack on Titan is airing, Attack on Titan is going to be the best show this season, the most watched show this season, right? It's cheating. So that's why I say Hell's Paradise probably gonna be the best anime this season. However, I would say a fan favorite of mine, and kind of being hypocritical because this is a sequel, prequel, I'll say, spinoff, is Konosuba. Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world. This is something where I think I talked about it in my preview episode, like a week or two ago, whenever that came out. How it's like, I always really enjoyed Konosuba. Konosuba was definitely one of those shows where it was like earlier on in my anime career of watching anime. I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. This is, this is like the peak, or at least close to the peak of what comedic anime could be, right? Because comedy in anime is very different than comedy in Western shows, or even just Western cartoons, let alone, live action, right? It's just, just told differently. Not that it's good or bad. It's just different. So like, Konosuba to me was always kind of the peak, kind of like the best of the best when it comes to comedy, or definitely like in that crop. And I kind of forgot how much I like Konosuba because I watched it so long ago, right? The 2 seasons came out forever ago, right? Like when did season 1 of Konosuba come out? Wasn't it like 10 years ago or something? Wasn't like 2013 when season 1 came out? Or am I crazy? I think it was somewhere around there. And so I watched them forever ago. And recently, this got announced, and season 3 also got announced. We'll be doing that. And I was like, oh man, okay, I should probably catch up and everything, because I still didn't watch the movie of Konosuba. And I watched the movie recently, like a couple months ago, I think. And I was like, man, Konosuba still got it. That movie was incredible. Konosuba knows exactly what it is, and it does it better than anyone else. So now with this, it's like, okay, Megumin, favorite character, love the color red. Red's my favorite color, so that was, that's kind of cheating there. But also the whole like magic stuff is my style, and then just her outfit is cool. I love the hat, the witch hat with the face on it. That's cool. And also her personality too, of like, hey, I'm gonna be the best. I'm going all in on this one thing. And I'm just going to get better and better. And especially if you did watch the movie, you see a lot of that there too, which is really cool. And the movie does kind of set up this prequel. I'm not going to talk about the movie though, because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so now we're on to this show, episode 1. And it's great, right? It sets up her character perfectly, where we know why. I don't know if she's ever actually mentioned this before, but we know why she loves explosion magic. She just saw it one day. She was saved by explosion magic. And so then she was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I know what it can do. And, if we fast forward in the episode where her teacher and kind of the other students, they kind of make fun of explosion magic. They're like, we don't mention that type of magic. It's not practical. It's basically joke magic. And everyone laughs, except for Union, which is important. But I love that because it does instill just a little bit of doubt in her mind of like, is it is it a joke? Is it like, have I been pursuing this thing fruitlessly? And then and then she, her resolve hardens, and she's like, no, I've seen this in action. I've seen what this can do. I just read about it. I didn't hear from a friend of a friend of how dope explosion like I saw this. Like, no, I'm doing this. I'm gonna prove to everyone. I'm gonna be the best explosion magic user ever, and I'm gonna prove to everyone that this is the best type of magic, not the worst. So I just love that as like super cliche, super like, we've seen that type of, like character, mentality before another anime, but it just works for her. Um, Comedy is always there, right? We have a bunch of comedic moments here. Just to name a few, I really liked when the one character did save her, and she was like, "Hey, I'm really powerful. I'm gonna grant you a wish. What do you want?" And the first thing she says is world domination. And I'm like, "How old is Megumin here?" she world domination. What are you doing, you little scamp? And the mage is like, "Well, now hold on." When I said anything, anything within reason, I don't think I just have the ability to hand you world domination. So that was funny. She has a bunch of other ridiculous requests, but I just really liked her like world domination. Another funny moment was her family just getting really excited for food, because if you remember, and this happens a lot in the movie, or where we see it a lot in the movie, where her family is very poor. Her family does not have money, and so they get very excited when like they get to eat real food. So that was cool. Um, yeah, and then we also see how like ridiculous Crimson Demons are, where they're like, "What's the most important thing when you're in battle or whatever?" And they're like, "Looking cool." And it's like, okay, guys, we need to focus on magic. And it is funny, but it is also kind of weird because even after this whole there's like weird like onion spirit things that raid them, which is funny. But also we have Megumin and Yunyun kind of sitting back to back, and there's a nice touching moment there. But they talk about how like, man, it'd be nice if we knew how to use magic. We've been here for a month and we can't use magic. So it's like, it's funny that they're all about like flash and glitz, all that stuff. But when did we start learning magic? When did we start? We've been here a month, so we're not gonna be masters. But when are we getting to it? But then also the emotional moment with them back to back, and her kind of being like, hey, everyone else laughed, but I think it all depends on the user when it comes to explosion magic. If you're dope, then the magic can be dope. And then Megumin kind of knocks it back to her and is like, you're being real nice for someone who's supposed to be my rival. And so, nice little, playful competition there, which, we see evolved all the way until present day, right? So that's cool. But yeah, so, so, episode 1, really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's definitely probably going to be my favorite show of the season. I don't know. Favorite might be the wrong word, but just like has a special place in my heart of just like, this is Konosuba. Like, come on, you can't. If you watch the first couple seasons, the movie, I feel like you are gonna love this show. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see them kind of evolve. Obviously, Megumin get better with explosion stuff. We've heard some stories about her and Yunyun doing stuff together. So excited to see that. And then also the other characters as well. We've seen how ridiculous they can be already. So just a bunch of them together, I'm sure will just be crazy. So yeah. Next we got Dr. Stone New World episode 1, otherwise known as season 3. And yeah, this is another one where this is like Isekai adjacent, where it's like, it doesn't really kind of really new world. Like, nah, it's not really another world. It is still the same Earth, but they're like what, like thousands of years, millions of years, something crazy, right? They're crazy far in the future. So we're looking at that, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of an isekai, right? Does it count? But this is another one where it's where I watch it and I'm like, I'm very impressed with how this hasn't gotten old yet. How just the cycle of them being like, okay, next step, we're gonna develop this technology. We're gonna develop this technology. We're gonna have to search for this and harvest this, and get this in a different way because we don't have we don't really have food, right? That's where this whole episode was kind of revolving around, where it's like, hey, you know, there is some like darkness to this. We see these people because there are people there that were ancestors, or not ancestors, they were descendants of the people who somehow lived through the petrification blast. And it's like, it's really far in the future. Like, how come it's such a small village? Like, were they not like, what's up with the reproduction here? How are we this far in the future and they lived, but there's still like 50 people here? Like there's almost no one. It's like, oh, because humanity was stunted by food shortages. They're not really able to. There's not really a lot of animals around here. They don't really know how to get food any other way other than really fishing. But then if the fishing isn't yielding a lot of results, people are gonna die. Unfortunately, they're not gonna eat enough food, and sacrifices have to be made. So that was really dark, and that did have a nice moment where Senku and Senku, Ryusui, all those guys were just like, man, that sucks. While they're over here kind of playing God, trying to jumpstart and just fly through all of humanity's technology in a much shorter time, exponentially shorter time than what it actually took to develop all of this. They're kind of hit with this reality of like, man, these people have been through a lot. So that was nice. And so the whole New World thing, they're like making a map of everything, and they're trying to get that oil. But on their way there, they're like, okay, we're gonna do bread. This is a perfect thing. We got wheat. We're gonna make bread. We're never gonna have food shortages again. And that was basically the whole episode. Them farming for wheat, them doing that, them cooking bread being awful. Two big things came out of that. One, we got Taiju. Again, a nice personal moment there, which, I think the show does very well, where it is just kind of like, I think someone described the show as like Minecraft. It's like, oh, we're just crafting stuff, getting better stuff to then craft better stuff. But like, the show still does have a nice way of still showing heart, for all these characters, where, we have Taiju being like, why does Taiju work so hard, especially in this, right? And he's like, well, I can't bring my parents back. They weren't petrified. They died when I was young. So we have these other people with families and parents who are petrified that we can bring back, but we can't bring them back now because we don't have enough food. So now I want to work super hard to get all this food for people so that we can bring other people's families back, because I can't bring mine back. So, I know how it feels. And if it was possible to bring my parents back, I would. So now that I can bring other people's back, you better bet, you better you better believe I'm gonna do everything I can. So I was like, oh, that was a nice Taiju thing, And then the other nice little cliffhanger, which we might see next episode, is they finally cook the bread, and it's awful. It's burnt. It's terrible. The people there are kind of liking it, but that's because they don't know what bread is really supposed to be. When we get real bread, they're gonna lose their minds. But they were like, this bread's gonna kill everyone. we need to awaken a pro chef, which in one hand sounds kind of like selfish and unnecessary, but on the other hand, it's like, no, I mean, if we're gonna cook proper food for people, and food is one of the most important things that humans, just animals, can have, it's like, no, we should probably awaken someone that knows what they're doing. I mean, especially since there are many foods that you can cook wrong and they be maybe not downright poisonous, but pretty harmful to your health. So it might be a good idea to awaken someone who knows what they're doing. So that's cool. So I'm sure maybe we'll get a new character next episode. But yeah, it's kind of the start of this whole New World stuff. They're really making some great advancements. And so, and another thing I like, aside from just like this like loop, again, it is almost like a gameplay loop, is the overall mystery of the whole petrification thing. Like, where did that come from? Why did that happen? They are trying to solve the mystery. They are trying to get far enough in their whole little civilization to investigate that. And so, that is kind of the carrot on the stick for, I think, the show in general that we want to get to. So yeah, good stuff there. Next, we have another sequel, we have Tonikawa, Over the Moon for You, Season 2, Episode 1. This is great. This is a show that I mentioned in my little preview thing where, I saw this was coming up and I was like, oh, I think it's Season 2. I think I remember the first season. I didn't watch it, but I think I remember seeing it. And then I looked at the first season, like, oh, yeah, this show. I remember, like, sort of wanting to watch it, but like, the synopsis not really grabbing me. But, oh, there's a Season 2. Maybe I'll check out Season 1. And I watched Season 1 and I was like, oh, it's incredible. This is a great little slice of life, romance type show. So I watched it all, binged it, amazing. And so we got Season 2. And yeah, we're just kind of not a whole lot to talk about in Episode 1. But we're just seeing their relationship grow, them do fun stuff with each other. We see more of Tsukasa's just love and passion for movies. So that was really nice. How she, like, again, she's one of those, right? Everyone for the most part watches movies, but there's people who, like, really watch movies and they really know how to break certain things down and they appreciate different elements to a movie, whereas people like me, especially when it comes to live action, I just like them. I just watch the movie and I'm like, that was good or that was not good, right? I'll say, like, animated stuff is where I start to get more, like, analytical and like critical and breaking stuff down. But especially with live action stuff, like, I'm just like, whatever, it's cool. But it's just nice to see. And again, it's nice to see, especially from Nasa's side, to be like, oh, this is something she's super passionate about. It's nice to see someone that you love be passionate about something, and you just want to feed into that. Especially when they are at the movies, it's like, it felt like Nasa was less so watching the movie and more so watching Tsukasa watch the movie to see how into it she gets and how how much of a reaction certain moments get and, like, how she reacts. So that was cool to see. And then really we get to the whole wedding thing, which I don't know how much of the season the wedding is going to be. Or I mean, like, how much they're really going to focus on it. I mean, because they do, I mean, so, this whole thing starts up with them maybe wanting to get married. And then, that's Gus is just like, it's not worth the effort. We don't have to do that. Like, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of planning. It could take like a year to plan. Like, I don't need this, right? We're already married. We got rings. What else do we need, right? But that does lead to, that's pretty much the whole episode, right? They talk about it, they go back and forth, planets and whatever. But it does have a redeeming moment at the end where they do have their own little private wedding when they're lying in bed, and they have their own, because it's just like, they just don't really care. I mean, for two people who got married suddenly without really knowing each other, and then for them to just be like, yeah, we're gonna sign the papers, go to the place, bada bing, bada boom, we're doing it. They're definitely the type of people that don't really need a wedding. They're just with each other, right? So I do like how quaint their quote unquote wedding was when they're in bed and they're just like, do you take Nasa as the husband? Whatever. They just recite it back and forth, and then boom, right? So that was really nice. It was very fitting for them and their relationship. But yeah, again, a very nice start to the season. Nothing too crazy. Them kind of talking about the wedding stuff, planning it, being very ignorant about this whole thing. Again, is very indicative of the type of relationship and the type of marriage that they've cultivated. Since they got married. So. And that really is just what this show is anyway. It's just like a series of, like, couples things that they might want to do or they've been told that they should do, and they look into them, and they always do them in, like, a very slanted way. So yeah, again, just not a lot to talk about. A very nice start to the season for this show. So next we have a show that I was somewhat skeptical of. I was like, I don't know, is this show, like, this is one where I read the synopsis and I was like, okay, it sounds kind of cool. I compared it to, like, Rock Lee the show. So Rock Lee is from Naruto, for anyone who doesn't know. And the whole thing with Rock Lee is that obviously Naruto, they all have, like, ninjutsu and genjutsu and all that stuff, which is their chakra. They're doing, like, powers and stuff, right? They can Naruto can multiply, right? Like, Sasuke can shoot flames from his mouth and whatever, right? Like, it's magic. It's like, the magic ninjas, right? And Rock Lee in the show cannot use ninjutsu or genjutsu. Um, he can only use taijutsu, which means he just has hand-to-hand combat. He is not equipped for that. I actually don't remember if he can do it. He's just terrible at it. Like his body just isn't equipped to really use it. Like he can use it, but it's not anything. Or if he just straight up can't use it at all. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's the fact that he can't. You know, because I think Guy can use the other ones, but he just was never good at them. Like again, like his explanation for him was that he was more so on the edge of like I could do this stuff, but my body I was just never proficient for it. Like you know, my body doesn't really do those types of stuff, so I just focused on taijutsu. Whereas Rock Lee can't do it at all. Like he's absolutely unable. I think that's what it was. I don't know. Anyway, but that's kind of what this was. But as we were reading, I was like, yeah, okay, it sounds kind of cool. I don't really know if it's one that I'm super excited for. And then the hype just got real. So we got MASHLE, Magic and Muscles, episode 1. Yeah, it's Rock Lee the show. I mean, for one, this is gonna be probably the more like comedic relief show of the season. I would say, aside from Konosuba, where like he's going crazy. It's like Rock Lee mixed with Saitama from One Punch Man. It's kind of those two characters combined, where it is just like he does his workouts and he's like lifting 1,000,000 pounds. He's like benching 1,000,000 pounds like at like Mach 5. And I love the one moment where I don't remember if it happened the first time we see him do it, but the second time we see him benching, he's just going crazy. And then we cut to a squirrel who's watching him, and the squirrel is like, "What is happening?" This man's a monster. It's just funny to see a squirrel react to like the inhuman strength of this creature. It was funny. Um, and 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 also how Mash is just like an idiot. I wouldn't say he's an idiot. I would say he's just like he's very simple. He's very just like yeah. I mean like dumb. I don't think it's quite the right word. I just think he's just like a free spirit. He's just like, hey man, this is just what I know. He's very ignorant, I'll say. You know, I say he's more ignorant than anything. I mean, because of, you know, Pops. I don't think he's ever said his name, but Pops, has kept him sheltered his whole life. So yeah, I just I'm like breaking the door twice. Just like I couldn't remember if it was pull or push. Pops is like, man, listen, I've told you every day how to open this door, and you break it. So it's so funny. It's so stupid. But the whole thing, and it's kind of the whole setup for the show, which is like he can't use magic. He's unmarked, right? And so that's like a big thing. Very harsh for them to be like, yeah, we rid the world of people who can't use magic, and it's like, well, what if instead of killing them, what if you just say you can't reproduce if you really want to cut off the bloodline? I don't know. It's kind of harsh. But yeah, so. And yeah, so that's the whole thing is that you can't use magic. And then we have this great little fight scene with Mash and the magic police, where it's like, oh, he just destroys them, right? He punches the one dude in the face. I think he's dead. Slaps the other man silly. His cheeks are go crazy fat now, and he's going against Brad, and Brad is using these crazy magic techniques where he's like, oh, that was the technique that warded off a dragon. They said that that Mash just like paffed. He just paffed the like magic beam. He just slapped it out of the air, and then he's like juggling it. He's like kicking it around like it's a soccer ball or a football, and it's just like this is a great character. This is an awesome character. He's making you look like a fool. And so yeah, and then it's juxtaposed with some backstory of Pops and how Pops was always ostracized for being weak, and I love that for his character. I love that that's like all the explanation we need to see why he took in Mash as a baby, and why he cares so much for him, because he's like, I was always weak. I was always a very weak magic user. So, the usefulness of yourself, of your value in this world is your magical ability. And so I was always kind of tossed aside. I was always cut off. and so now, now I have someone who can't use magic at all, and I want to protect him at all costs. He's so precious, right? And so that was awesome. And then, and yeah, and we have all the explanation we need for what the show is, which is, kind of what you read in the synopsis, is that Brad's like, hey, if you enroll in the magic school and become the divine visionary, then society will have to accept you because you've been accepted by like God himself. Masher's like, I'll do it. Which is, which, if I'm going to critique it, not really critiquing the show, more so just like the situation where it's like, I understand the explanation that like Brad gives him and like why Mash does it, because it's like, it's a pretty logical conclusion where it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, if I don't do this, I suppose, and even if I take these guys out, like the entire magic police, the entire government is going to be after me forever. I'm going to be on the run with Pops, and it's like, you may survive everything, but your Pops there, like he's kind of weak. He's, how long do you think you can protect him for? How long until he gets taken out, he gets arrested, or he gets killed? You're pretty powerful, you're pretty strong, you might survive, but Pops might not. And so I get that angle of it, because there's the explanation, there's the questions that get brought up immediately where it's like, you're making a deal with me. Like I clowned all three of you in like effortlessly. I didn't even break a sweat. Like you say you think you're being nice to me by making a deal? Are you kidding? Like that's like, you have fought well, young one. It's like, what? You use your strongest magic against me, and I'm still standing. It's crazy. That was just funny to me, because it's like, I'll make you a deal. I'll let you go if you enroll in magic school. It's like, what? Like, I'll let you go if you enroll in magic school. What are you talking down to me for? So, you know. But yeah, that is, that's basically the show. They're setting that up. I'm excited to see like some new characters. Some like hopefully he makes some nice friends that know about his stuff. I'm just gonna be super excited to see how he kind of approaches the different magic classes. I don't know how school heavy this will be. Like if we're really gonna see like the day in the life of him at school and like different hijinks at school. I imagine that's what the show is. So it'd be cool to see like him not being able to use magic, and just probably just him still going crazy, like still like passing tests and still like again like approaching his classwork in a way that only he can, right? So that'll be cool. Next we have My Love Story with Yamada-Kun at level 999, episode 1. This is gonna be a show that's gonna be absolutely ridiculous, but hopefully, again, having I said this a lot, having some heart in it, which I'm pretty sure it will. So we have oh, I was looking at the wrong show there. All right, we have Akane, who has one of the most ridiculous setups for like a more rom-com type show, where she lost her boyfriend to a gamer girl. He's like, hey man, listen, I found this girl, met her online through the game I play, and I kind of like her, so I'm leaving. It's oof. That is a big oof. That is a feels bad man moment, if there ever was one. Feel very bad for her, but these things happen, and so we see her just go off to this Afro guy through her game, the Fable of Society or something. I don't remember what the game was called. But she goes off to the one guy, and clearly that is the guy that is Yamada, who she bumps into at the little convention there. So that was cool, and I love their little back and forth, because she is very much the more she's definitely the type of person that will talk your ear off, and maybe a little bit unsure of herself, but she will ramble and go off, and she wears her emotions on her sleeve, right? Whereas Yamada, complete opposite, where he is very blunt, with his things. Like, I mean, he'll say like, if I don't care about what you're saying, I don't really care about what you just said. But um, when he does care, he knows how to show it, right? Very much of a show don't tell type personality. Whereas I feel like, Akane is the opposite. Which I feel like, the whole opposite attract thing, not always true. I feel like opposites attract is like a a ridiculous idea, because that as just a statement can't be true all the time, especially in the most extremes. But in something like this, I feel like they do fit each other very well. Um, we have a comedic moment where she like basically pays him to go to pretend that they're on a date, which is whatever. Very very cringe moment when their whole meeting of her old boyfriend and his new girlfriend or whatever. But the best moment of the show, and I really hope we see more of this. And I think we will. I think this is what type of show this is, where it's like on the surface, it's very much going to be Yamada and Akane just getting into like funny, wacky situations with just, again, like their personalities clashing, and, maybe certain misunderstandings, and maybe just them both being gamers. I'm sure that'll play a part into it. But we see the more heartfelt moments of them together, and then like Akane going to the bathroom to do whatever, I don't know, like cry or something, and then she came back, and Akane, I keep getting the names mixed up. She came back, and Yamada was gone, and she was like, "Oh, he left me. Oh, I talked too much about my problems or whatever. Like, of course he hates me. Blah blah. Like, why? Like, why would he do? Well?" And then he came back, and he came back with bandages, and she was like, "Oh, you got band-aids for me?" She's all like super surprised and super like, "Oh wow, like he's so thoughtful," and he was like, "Well, yeah, like I saw the blood, and I just got uncomfortable. I didn't like that, so I did that for you." And she was like, "Oh, you went out of your way to do this for me." And he was like, "Well, yeah, of course I did." And he also has this little comedic line here where he's like, "Oh, and I also drink like 3 Cokes." And in my mind, I'm like, 3 Cokes? How long was she gone? how how big or small are their Cokes that they're like? I mean, I know that like America, everything is bigger in America because, well, maybe not actually. Yeah, bigger, right? Where it's just like a regular soda can. 3 of those. I mean, were you like chugging them? Like, what, like that's a lot of soda. Again, how long was she in the bathroom? If she was in there for like 20 minutes, which is kind of a long time, 3 Cokes in 20 minutes, that's crazy. That's insane. Um, but yeah. And it's like, oh, very thoughtful. That was nice, And then we have the end where it's like she wakes up at her place, he's gaming, which is very funny. He's just like he's gaming. But it's like, wait, did they do the thing? Like, what happened there? Was it, is that what they're insinuating? Which is nice. It's like, ooh, okay, we're getting that kind of show. Where it is, again, I always praise, if you've been watching and listening since last season, we had a show called the Ice Guy and His Cool Female Colleague. So if you haven't watched that, I definitely recommend it. That is a very nice, romancy, slice of lifey show. And I always praise shows like that because I love the whole like rom-com, slice of life, whatever you want to call it, like that genre. But most of them are with people in high school or even sometimes in middle school, and that's a little more like juvenile, which I'm like, But like most of them, like 95% of them are students in high school, right? And it's that kind of like first love, the whole like crush, not really showing how to express love to each other because you're like 17, right? You're like, you don't know what love is, right? People in their 30s don't even know, so it's like, but I always applaud, and I always am like super into and super interested in shows where they are more in college or even more just like adults, like in their 20s or whatever, because it's like, or with Ice Guy, with the Ice Guy show, I don't know how old they were. I imagine they were in their like mid 20s, maybe late 20s. It's like, okay, more of like an adult relationship. We don't have to worry about like, oh, we're at school, or oh, we have class, and oh, this is like a first, like, No, like, so like, shows like this where it's like I don't think they're in school. I'm pretty sure they're like adults with jobs and everything. So, I always like seeing that angle of things because we don't have to um, deal with quote unquote, the whole like first love, teenage love, that, that sort of thing, which I love, right? And in shows, it's great, right? Again, it's the majority, overwhelming majority of the genre, but again, a nice breath of fresh air whenever you get something like this. So yeah, and I can't wait for that. I can't just wait to see what their relationship becomes, and maybe they didn't, right? I feel like that's what they're insinuating. I feel like that's why they ended the episode that way, but maybe they did. Maybe they just drank together last night, and they went back, and him being super thoughtful, he was like, hey, I'm gonna bring you back to my place and you can sleep, and I don't want you to like, I want to take care of you, basically, and it's like, okay, cool, maybe they didn't do anything, and they just kind of, him just being thoughtful, right? um, I'm sure we'll see next episode, so high hopes, a lot of potential for this show. I hope it lives up to it. And then we have Skip and Loafer, episode 1. What I will say is, if you did watch the preview, the spring 2023 preview, um, this show was not, this show and the next show, which are the final two of this week, were not on the preview. I did make some last minute changes where there were, I think, a few shows that I previewed that I said I was going to watch that upon further inspection, not super excited for them, as excited as I was for them a week or two ago. So as of right now, I'm not going to watch those few, but there are a couple that I replaced them with that it turns out I wasn't looking at that seem super, super cool. And this is one of them. So Skip and Loafer, episode 1. Yeah, this is great. This I have super, super, super high hopes for. Just these two character types. We have Iwakura and Shima, two very different, we have Iwakura, who is the, top of the class valedictorian type, super like planning out her whole life. She literally has a life roadmap till the day she dies. But she gets a lot of, stress because of that. And she very clearly is engulfed in her studies, and so anything that has to do, and anything that doesn't have to do with like school and like tests and whatever, she's not exactly up to snuff when it comes to stuff like that. Like, I don't know, just like socially she's not really there, and like, that leads to a lot of awkward situations as well, like her getting lost at the train, and her even first talking to Shima, and then her not really being able to make friends at school, right? So all of these awkward situations. That's funny because she's like, I have a roadmap, everything will be perfect, and like people who know her are like kind of worried. Kind of worried for, I'm not worried that she's not going to get good grades or whatever. Kind of worried that she's not going to make friends, and just going to like fumble everything else again. She literally got lost at the train station. She had to run to school to make it. But then we have Shima, who is sort of the opposite, where I don't really know, we haven't really seen how good his grades are, like how, how well he does academically, but he is more like the lazy type, more of like, we're just kind of going with the flow, not really worrying about it too much. He's like, oh, I slept in on my first day, I missed the entrance ceremony, whatever. And then even with like later on with his friends, how shocked they are when they hear that he ran to school to try to make it in time, and they're like, wait, you ran, like you, oh. And so that was funny. So again, these two again, sort of like the last show, where it's like these two very in ways they're opposites, but it kind of works for them. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, one thing I do want to mention is where I just hated it. I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. And again, not from the show, but just from like me liking the character's perspective. Again, the show does it very well. There's a lot of times where I talk about the writing of the show itself. There's other times where I talk about just like in world, I don't like this thing. And it was when Iwakura, she wants to make friends, right, as everyone does, right? And so she turns around, talks to the girl behind her, and the girl kind of dismisses her. It's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. which is, in one way understandable because she's known as the puker, because she came in, she memorized her speech, which was crazy. Again, very indicative of her personality. But then she, all the stresses of the day just kind of hit her at once, and then so she puked, which sucks, man. That's rough. That is something that you really gotta shake off. It's probably gonna take maybe a few days at least to kind of shake that off. Um, so one way, in a way, it's understandable, but another way, it's like, wow, you're just dismissive. Like, wow, you're just like, yeah, cool, whatever. It's like, wow, that's, oof. I mean, you could at least like act like you're friendly. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, whatever. And then as soon as Shima walks in, and everyone's like, whoa, look at this guy. And like, he talks to, he talks to Iwakura, and it's like, hey, blah, 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 this and that, this and that. I want to be friends, exchange ID information with me so we can talk. And then everyone sees that, and then the girl behind Iwakura is like, hey, we should change it. We should exchange info as well. I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. That's not cool. You can't 60 seconds ago be like, yeah, whatever, and then now you're like, now what? You're gonna try to get through me to Shima? Nah, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen at all. I hope. I don't know. I can't look at that scene and think of a way that that's genuine. Like try to put it at an angle of being genuine. I mean, unless it's just her own insecurities, and she's like, I know, maybe I'm down, but even so, like, no, like there's no way that I can frame that and be like, oh, that girl was being genuine in that moment, wanting to be her friend. Like, there's no way, because like even if at first she was afraid of being associated with the puker, that's like, well, now you're letting other people dictate who your friends are, because like, whoa, I would be her friend, but I don't want other people to think I'm weird because I'm associated with her. Like, who cares what other people think? Like, if they think that, then if they judge, and I love it, because I'm thinking back to, I'm gonna reference again another previous show that we just covered, which was The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Again, if you like, romance, slice of life type shows, definitely watch that one. That was very good, A+ there. Where, though I'm not really gonna spoil it, but there is a moment in that show where the one character goes off on another character for trying to dictate who her friends should be, and is like, well, I like being friends with this person for this, and this, and I don't really care what anyone else thinks. And for you to try to rag on my friends, like, I don't want to be friends with someone who bashes my friends. You know what I mean? Like, if like, you don't know this person, you have no idea why I want to be their friend. Like, you haven't even tried to get to know this person. So who are you to, you know what I mean? Like, ooh, why am I friends with this person? Well, first off, this person does not just, try to trash my friends like you do, so that's one thing, so that, kind of bringing that to this show where it's like, why would you care? Why would you care? If you want to be this person's friend, be this person's friend. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It could turn out to be genuine. I could be just, cynical. But there's just no way right now where I can see, oh, she clearly wants to be friends with this person, for, with Iwakura for wholesome reasons. Like, no, it definitely seems like she's like, oh, she's friends with Shima? I want to get to know Shima? Nah, that's not cool. Hated that. Yeah, that's basically it. The very end, we see more again indicative of her personality, where she doesn't sleep at all during the night, and she just stayed up all night planning what she's gonna say for her self introduction. So I'm sure that'll be something. I'm sure we'll see that right at the top of the episode probably, and see everyone introduce themselves. And I'd really like I'm sure she's gonna. I mean, she's really good with planning, right? I will say. Not so good on the social aspect of it, but she did memorize her speech. So I mean, if she did come up with something good, I'm sure she'll deliver it precisely. But we'll see. We'll see. I would really like for this to grow, for the show to go, and I have a lot of very high hopes for this show. I would like for it to grow and for her to actually make more friends. But I can also see the show being the show of like, this is the kind of show where there's just two people, where it is just their relationship. That is the only person that I really made friends with. None other people really like me for that. For me, only Shima does. But it's like overcompensating, where it's like, not only do I have a friend, like this one friend makes up for me having 10 sort of friends, So that'll be really nice. Yeah, and then also just, we're not only talking from Iwakura's perspective, but also Shima's perspective, where it's like he found someone that like he's admiring, maybe infatuated with, of like, I've never seen someone like her before, who's this passionate, who's this driven, like, to be so different from how I live my life. And like, uh, I, as Shima, am not looking at Iwakura and I'm like, huh, why does she care so much? Like, no, I'm looking at her and I'm like, wow, like, this is amazing. Like, for someone, because again, you could see someone who lives your life complete opposite as yours, and you immediately dismiss them of like, well, they're stupid. Like, well, they who cares about school this much? But no, like, I don't have that perspective on her, so that's, it's really nice to see. Yeah, and then lastly, we got the other show that I didn't really mention in my preview, but it turns out that it might be pretty good. We got Heavenly Delusion episode 1. Yeah, this is I saw this described as The Last of Us anime, and I see it. Not going to spoil Last of Us, obviously. If you haven't played the game or watched the show, you definitely should. Both are fantastic. But I see, again, elements of the show are very Last of Us. It's also a lot easier to make connections because the show just came out, so it's kind of in our minds, right? But yeah, this is cool. This is kind of like The Last of Us mixed with Promised Neverland. Season 1 Promised Neverland, Season 2 Promised Neverland, atrocious. Season 1 Promised Neverland, immaculate. So yeah, so if anyone hasn't seen that show, watch the first season, don't watch the second season. Not worth it. As someone who didn't read the manga and like didn't have quite like the source for all the hatred to season 2, I still felt like season 2 was not good. Just like, again, I can't say it was a bad adaptation because I didn't read the source, but I can say it just wasn't good, like, writing and like good, like a good way to spend your time. It just, everything felt rushed and whatever. We're not talking about Promised Neverland. We're talking about Heavenly Delusion episode 1. And so yeah, this was interesting. Again, we do kind of have like two halves to the show, where like the one side is them being, a bunch of kids being brought up in this dome, basically, and then being tested and scored and everything and groomed for something, I imagine. Like, I don't really know what it's for. Again, if you watch Promised Neverland, you know what they were being groomed for. We're not going to spoil anything though. So Heavenly Delusion, I'm like, what is, like, is it all innocent? Is it all genuine? Is it all just like, well, the outside world sucks, and so we have our little utopia here, and this is where we live, this is what we do, Or is there more like sinister means to it? Because they were, again, you could say, oh, it's just because they were kids, we didn't want to scare them, but they were keeping the truth from them about, no, there is an outside world to this. There is outside to the outside. And, so again, you could say, they're just kids. We didn't want to be like, yeah, the world sucks. It ended and there's monsters outside. We didn't want to say that because they're kids, We didn't want to scare them. We didn't want to scar them. Or you didn't want to tell them because there's something else out there that, maybe if they knew, they wouldn't want to be here. Maybe if they knew the real reason why they're here and why they do what they do every day is because it's a secret. So yeah, there's kind of that part to it. And also, again, like, you can say, oh, we're protecting them, but like, why was there the message on their tablets of like, do you want to go outside? Why was there a secret thing there? Like, what's going on here? There's a little bit of mystery, right? But then, like, most of the show is the other half, which has Kiriko and Maru, and they are outside. They're trying to live. They're trying to get somewhere. So basically, the whole like Last of Us thing is the whole bodyguard thing, right? Where Kiriko was hired as to be Maru's bodyguard to get to heaven. We don't quite know what heaven is. That's kind of a big mystery right now. We all we know is that Maru has to get there. Um, so yeah, we don't really know what it is. I'm sure there are theories. Again, we don't know. The mystery could not even be what heaven is. It could be more so as like who Maru is. Why is he so important? Why does he have to get there, right? A lot of questions. Um, we do have Kiriko's weapon, a little like laser gun. That was pretty sick. They were like, oh, so the one scene which is one of my favorite scenes of the show, or of this episode, where like bandits come after him, right? And she's like, I got a gun, and they're like, whoa, man, she's got a gun. Whoa, man, that's not cool. And they're like, wait, hold on, is that even a real gun? That's a toy gun. You're trying to play us. And then and then, well, no, she doesn't. She runs, and that kind of lures them into a false sense of security, and they're like, "Ha, gotcha! It was a fake gun." And then Maru just goes crazy, right? He's crazy with the hand-to-hand combat, taking them all out, and then Kiriko's like, "You're right. This isn't a normal gun." She fires it, and a laser shoots out, and they're like, "Whoa, man, you got some alien tech. We're not with that." So that was that was cool. And just like own them and be like, nah, we could end your lives at any point. Um, so, so yeah, and the other big thing is them going to the inn, and we see, I would say two big things kind of came out of this, which was, um, I'd say I don't know, a bunch of good stuff actually. So they have the inn. I'll say one like smaller thing that I like, which is a nice character moment, which maybe might get explained more as the show goes on. As we see Kuriko has some gnarly scarring on her body, and like that's I think just adding to her character. Like she is this kind of like hired gun almost. Like that's her job. She does a bunch of odd jobs, from Tokyo. So I'm interested to see, interested for her to tell more of her story, more of what she's been through. That was cool. Um, and then we see another thing, which is them looking for people. Two people that she's looking for specifically. We're not sure why at this point, but that's a nice little little trail that they've opened up for us. And then obviously the monsters, right? This weird like flying beast. It's definitely not not anything that we've seen before. It's not just like, oh, there's a weird like bear rolling around. He's like a demon bear. Like, nope, this is some weird flying angel of death. That's normal bullets don't hurt it. We do have the little laser gun. I wonder if that would do anything. So there's mystery there too of like where those things come from. Are those artificial? Did those evolve? Like what is the cause of this? They called it the collapse. So what is that? Where did that come from? How did that happen? This show, I think this first episode did a lot of heavy lifting with the mystery and the breadcrumbs of like their little dome. What's the point of that, right? What's really going on there? Where did this whole monster thing come from? How did the collapse happen? Who is Maru really? What's his purpose? What's heaven? What is that? Um, yeah, bunch of stuff, a bunch of crazy stuff there. So again, a lot of potential with this first episode. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how much they can really deliver on these mysteries. Because this is a show where I can see going the other way, where it's like they don't really answer anything, and the answers they do have are kind of boring. Again, I've seen shows like that have a really strong first couple episodes, set up a lot of really cool mysteries, and then it doesn't amount to anything. Again, I'm not saying this show will do that, but I hope it doesn't, right? But yeah, that is this week. 10 really solid shows. Of course, two of them we already knew about, right? Vinland Saga, where, two cores, that is as a known quantity, and then Tokyo Revengers, we're closing that up, right? But, eight shows so far this season, and all of them are really strong. Again, I don't like, putting the cart in front of the horse. But you know, like I said, this schedule is fluid, or this lineup is fluid, and I'm always here for adding new shows that are really good, dropping shows that I don't care about. But all 8 of these new shows, pretty solid so far, and we still have a few more that haven't come out yet. You know, as I'm recording this right now, and what I've watched so far, like we still got Demon Slayer hasn't come out yet. That's gonna be solid, right? We have Oshinoko, which I think the first episode aired at like some convention or something, but I'm waiting until the official release to start watching it. That's gonna be a banger. We have the only other show that I know is coming out that I'm gonna watch, that I can remember right now is I forget what the show is called, but it's like Insomniac something. It's a show about 2 kids who have a lot of stuff going on, and they bond over the stars and astronomy, not astrology, astronomy. So that's that show. I think I mentioned in my preview. I think it's gonna be like the dark horse, where it's like no one really has eyes on it, but it's gonna end up being like really good. I hope. But yeah, so really solid so far. And yeah, let me know what you thought of a bunch of these first episodes. What your highest hopes are for these certain shows. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, watch more anime.